TCI is brought to you by Northern Afleet, standing at TaylorMade Stallions. What has he done for you lately? Visit northernafleet.com to find out.
Welcome back to TCI. I'm John Siegel alongside Joel Cunningham. Joel, this is our prep preview show. We have 3 Derby preps to discuss. They're all around 2 turns. They're all graded races, and there's a lot of money up for grabs.
There really is. A lot of graded earnings, and that's what's really important this time of year, John. And another important thing for me is, like you mentioned, they're all amount of 16th races. And what's important about that, in my opinion, is the fact that so far with these 3-year-olds, I think we've seen a lot of brilliant horses in winning most of these graded stakes recently, but I'm not seeing a lot of pedigrees that really give me a lot of optimism. These horses are going to stretch out and be top classic horses. So very happy to get around 2 turns, John. We got 3 major circuits here. And I think going forward, we're going to learn a lot more about this 3-year-old division, obviously, as they develop. But I think more importantly, as the distances get a little further now and around 2 turns, I think it's going to eliminate some of those horses that were maybe talented but not really classic material.
All right, let's jump right in. 2 of the races have drawn. 1 of them have not. Tampa, the Sam F. Davis, has not drawn. We're going to go off of probables.
Right. Even
Even though Team Valor confirmed this morning, State of Play will run in this race with Alan Garcia aboard. Joel, we see some nice horses in here. 2 of them have won stakes already this year. We have Reveron and Perspective. Let's talk about State of Play real quick. This horse has not won a stakes race since September of last year, and he's really a turf horse. What do you think about it?
I think he's a very talented horse, and obviously Team Valor feels the same way. He won first time out at Saratoga, came back and won a Grade 2. Now, those were both on the grass, but at least we know he likes 2 turns. He's the son of that hot sire, Warfront. And you know what, John? We saw another turf horse last year by Warfront make a pretty successful switch to the dirt, and that was Sold At.
Right.
I'm thinking, you obviously think they're believing the same thing could be possible for this horse. He's obviously trained well enough on the dirt. So I like the fact that Alan Garcia comes in to ride, and they're taking a shot in here, and it's not that tough of a spot to see. This horse already has some graded earnings. He could add to the bankroll here, and most importantly, show that he can handle the dirt.
All right, let's talk about a horse we know can handle the dirt. He's already run over this local surface once, and that's Perspective. He's also a Grade 2 winner around 2 turns. He did it in Canada, though, but he's won the Pasco Stakes already this year.
And we watched this horse train Breeders' Cup week at Churchill. I mean, he trained as well as any 2-year-old colt that we saw on the grounds. You know, you talk to trainer Mark Cassidy about him, and he's not sure if this colt, he says he sees it at times, he sees moments of brilliance, but hasn't seen the consistency. But now, as a 3-year-old, John, obviously the mental maturity there for him to come back and win the Pasco, he now needs to move forward. We know he's going to handle 2 turns, and I think it's very key that, you know, there locally at Tampa, he's shown he can handle that track. It's a very tricky track, so I expect him to be a big player in here. What he needs to start doing is stepping up and showing that he can be, you know, some real quality in this classic division, because quite frankly, like Alpha, another horse we're going to talk about in a little bit,
right,
his only opportunity to do that in the Breeders' Cup, he failed pretty good in doing so. As a matter of fact, he ran last.
All right, another horse we'll likely see in this race. He ships in from Gulfstream Park, and that is Reveron.
Yeah.
Tell me, what do you think of him?
Very intriguing colt. And the thing I like about him, John, is his gameness. You look at his Gulfstream Park Derby performance, and he was game holding off Casual Trick. Now, Casual Trick, not sure how good he is. He obviously came back disappointed last weekend at Gulfstream. But, John, here's a colt that's won 3 in a row, and he's shown that he can handle 2 turns now. He's by song and a prayer, but he does have that awesome again on the bottom side. So he comes in, I think, as your top contender in the race in terms of his back class.
All right, obviously I can't ask you who you like in this race because we're going off of probables.
Right.
So let's go to Aqueduct, a race that has drawn the Withers. And Joel, this has drawn a pretty heavy favorite in Alpha.
It really has, John. Alpha, here's a horse that has really been highly regarded since his 2-year-old year. The obvious flashes of talent that we've seen, the fact that he has that classic pedigree and top connections, but I want to see Alpha break through. You know, his one opportunity to do so, John, in his biggest class test to date in the Breeders' Cup, he didn't run so well, just like Perspective didn't run so well. So is Alpha this year's version of Stay Thirsty, another son of Bernardini? Is he going to come along too late before he figures things out, or can he be a real classic contender? I want to see that. He's had some excuses, particularly in that Breeders' Cup race. We know he likes Aqueduct. We know he's going to handle the distance. And in terms of class, he really lays over this field this weekend. I like the 7 posts because he's not that good of a gate horse. He'll be able to load late, break. Ramon will be able to put him in the race wherever he needs to put him to have success. So I think Alpha, I want to see him step up and not only beat this field, but really show market improvement as he progresses through these races.
Well, there's another horse in this field that needs to step up, and that's Swag Daddy. He's coming off back-to-back stakes wins.
Right.
But Joel, they're restricted New York bred races. He needs to step up big if he's going to beat Alpha.
You know, it really does, but if there's any trainer that's capable of doing it with a 3-year-old, certainly Rick Dutcher up in New York. We know the success he's had there. This horse comes in on a bit of a win streak. Now, he is stepping up out of the state bred ranks. He hasn't run very fast to date, John, so he's going to have to really show he has the quality. But again, he's another one of these horses. I've been talking about these 3-year-olds that have shown ability but might not have the pedigree to be real classic horses. And really, at the end of the day, it's what we're trying to accomplish here, trying to find out who the real classic contenders are in this year's Triple Crown. He's a son of Scat Daddy, so even if he wins this weekend, distance questions will loom for this horse.
All right, let's move now to California. You know, there's 2 grudge matches this weekend. We got the Super Bowl, where we see Tom Brady against Eli Manning. But out in the Robert Lewis, we see Liaison. He's going against Rousing Sermon. Is it really just a 2-horse field here?
You know, I know that's been the rivalry out there in California. These 2 horses, you know, dating back to the Cash Call Futurity and then the Real Quiet Stakes prior to that. But no, I think this field is much deeper, John. I actually think this is the deepest and most talented field probably of the 3 this weekend. Now, we don't know what the Sam Davis has on store yet, but based on the probables, I think this field is probably the best. I mean, Bob Baffert is loaded in here. He also has Sky Kingdom. I think a horse with a very big future. You know, right now he's on our top 5 radar, and he's a horse with a real good classic profile. So I think this is a very good race, but it definitely starts with the 2 you mentioned.
Well, I'll tell you what, Bob Baffert won this race in 2009 with a pretty good horse in Pioneer of the Nile. Do you think he gets it done this weekend with one of those 2 contenders?
You know, I really do. What's interesting, John, is the horse that steps up and wins this weekend might not even be his best classic contender in the race, and I'm talking about Liaison. You know, with his 2 wins at that middle distance, mile and a 16th distance, as hot as he is, Bob Baffert said he keeps getting better. I really expect Liaison to run well and be the horse to beat again this weekend. However, Sky Kingdom's that horse that we've identified as really having that good classic profile.
Right.
So I just need to see Sky Kingdom. He doesn't have to win for me this weekend. I need to see him running on late in here, including some others. We talked about the talent in here. Rousing Sermon, you mentioned him, another deep closer with a pedigree to handle some distance. How is he going to continue to progress? How is some of this undeveloped young talent in here that we talked about, how is it going to continue to progress, John? Horses like Groove and Solo, a real pedigree and credential to be a top 2-turn horse. He's a half to Street Hero, and he's a half Premier Pegasus. So we know the credentials are there to be a top-class runner. So again, this weekend is not as important to me in who wins this race, but who keeps taking that next step, like Alpha, like Perspective, some of the other ones we mentioned, towards that Derby run.
All right, thank you, Joel. Like Joel said, the theme is who's going to step up this weekend. Make sure you come back on Monday. We'll recap all these races and see who did just that. And we want to hear from you guys. Make some comments. Let us know who you think is the best horse this weekend.